Hey everyone, and welcome to this explainer. Today we're going to systematically unpack an absolutely incredible ancient text. It's called the Cūḷasīhanāda Sutta, which is also known as the Shorter Discourse on the Lion's Roar. And what we are about to do here is literally peel back the layers of human existence to find the absolute root cause of suffering. It's this totally fascinating journey of deductive reasoning, so let's just jump right into it. Right off the bat, we are hit with this incredibly bold opening declaration made by the Buddha at a place called Savatthi. The text says, "The doctrines of others are devoid of recluses. That is how you should rightly roar your lion's roar." This serves as a hyper-confident lion's roar, which is essentially a powerful assertion of just how unique his teaching framework really is. The Buddha is telling his followers to confidently declare that true spiritual recluses, meaning those who have genuinely reached the ultimate spiritual goal, well, they're really only found within this specific understanding of reality. Because this text is practically a masterclass in deductive reasoning, here's the agenda we'll follow to reverse engineer reality down to its core. First, the lion's roar. Then, two views of existence. Third, the four kinds of clinging. Fourth, tracing the root cause, and finally, achieving true liberation. All right, kicking things off with Section 1, the lion's roar, defining spiritual success. Let's look at how the text defines the ultimate spiritual goal when questioned by wanderers of other sects. You can imagine wanderers from other philosophical camps coming up and asking, "Hey, we all have confidence in our own teachers and rules, so what actually makes you guys any different?" Well, the text synthesizes spiritual success around a universal desire for peace and a complete, absolute lack of mental agitation. The goal here isn't just about feeling good for a moment. It's about being entirely free from lust, hate, delusion, craving, and clinging. It means having really clear vision, no longer constantly favoring one thing while inherently opposing another. And crucially, it means not delighting in mental proliferation, which is basically a fancy way of describing that endless, exhausting overthinking and spinning of the mind. Moving right along to Section 2, two views of existence, the philosophical divide. Now, this is where most people get fundamentally stuck. It's really interesting how the text categorizes the extreme philosophical traps that we so easily fall into. The Sutta very neutrally reports that recluses and Brahmins typically adopt one of two opposing binaries, either the view of being or the view of non-being. And here is the trap, right? By accepting one side, you inherently oppose the other. People get locked in this intense binary conflict, bouncing back and forth between eternal existence and complete annihilation, and in doing so, they entirely miss the middle path. So to actually break free from this suffering, you have to understand 5 highly specific aspects regarding these two extreme views. You've got to understand their origin, their disappearance, the gratification they offer, the danger they pose, and finally, the escape from them. The text states incredibly clearly that if you don't understand these 5 things exactly as they are, you're going to remain affected by lust, hate, and delusion. You stay trapped in sorrow, lamentation, pain, grief, and despair. You're just simply not freed from suffering. Which brings us to Section 3, the 4 kinds of clinging, the crucial differentiator. The text now shifts from abstract philosophy to identifying the exact day-to-day mechanisms that bind us. We get this breakdown of 4 distinct types of clinging that we all experience. First, there's clinging to sensual pleasures, the things we can see, taste, and touch. Second is clinging to views, like our deep-seated opinions and philosophies. Third is clinging to rules and observances, which is kind of the belief that just performing the right mere rituals will somehow save us. And fourth, this is the big one, clinging to a doctrine of self, that deeply rooted, unshakable belief in a permanent, unchanging me. And this breakdown brilliantly illustrates the text's central claim. It impartially points out that, sure, other teachers completely grasped the first 3 kinds of clinging, but they all missed the final, most crucial piece of the puzzle. Other sects might teach you to let go of sensual pleasures, or even to drop your rigid views and rules, but only a fully enlightened Buddha teaches the full comprehensive understanding of that 4th point, clinging to a doctrine of self. Because other teachers completely miss this, the text describes their disciplines as unemancipating and simply unconducive to true peace. It's a real game changer. All right, let's dive into Section 4, tracing the root cause, reverse engineering reality. We know clinging is the main problem, but where on earth does it actually come from? The text basically acts like an intellectual detective here, posing this exact question to peel back the next layer of the onion. If clinging to a doctrine of self is what traps us, what is the literal source, origin, and birthplace of these four kinds of clinging? Working backward, the sutta explains that clinging comes directly from craving. But why do we crave? Well, because of feeling. And why do we feel? Because of contact. And contact originates from the sixfold base, which is referring to our six senses, including the mind, interacting with the world around us. Notice just how incredibly methodical this is. We are literally reverse engineering human experience, step by step. And we just keep digging deeper down the chain. That sixfold base arises from mentality materiality. That comes from consciousness, which in turn comes from formations, those deep-seated mental habits of ours. We follow that all the way down until we finally hit absolute bedrock, ignorance. This is the very bottom of the well. By defining ignorance as the ultimate root cause, the text completes this total, systematic teardown of human suffering. Everything from our sensory contact, to our feelings, to our cravings, and our desperate clinging to a self, literally all of it is born and produced from this single point of origin, ignorance. Finally, we reach Section 5, Achieving True Liberation, the End of Agitation. Now that we've diagnosed the root problem, let's explore exactly how the text proposes we solve it. The formula for fixing this is direct and beautifully simple. When a practitioner actually abandons ignorance, true knowledge arises. And with the fading away of that ignorance and the arising of true knowledge, the entire chain reaction just stops. It collapses. You no longer cling to sensual pleasures, you no longer cling to views, you no longer cling to rules and observances, and critically, you completely stop clinging to a doctrine of self. This pivotal quote shows us the ultimate result of that entire process. Look at that word, agitated. It's just so incredibly relatable, isn't it? When you aren't desperately clinging to an identity, an opinion, or a desire, your mind simply stops spinning. The true removal of clinging leads to a complete, absolute end of all mental agitation, and that results in the personal attainment of nibbana. The text concludes that reaching this utterly unagitated state means the ultimate spiritual work is finished. It's done. Birth is destroyed. The holy life has been lived. What had to be done has been done. And there's absolutely no more coming to any state of being. The entire cycle of suffering, which was driven for so long by ignorance and clinging, is permanently broken. So, to wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with a final thought to apply this ancient root cause analysis to your own modern life. Take a look at where you feel the absolute most friction and anxiety today. Which of the four clingings is causing the most agitation in your daily life right now? Is it a desire, an opinion you just won't let go of, a rigid rule you follow, or perhaps your own doctrine of self? Honestly, just identifying it might be your very first step toward true knowledge. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and remember to keep questioning the root of things.